What's up, y'all, and welcome to 2nd and 15, a Philadelphia Eagles fan podcast presented by Old City Sports Network, the best network for all your Philadelphia sports needs. This is your host, Michael Roscoe. The Philadelphia Eagles are your 2024 NFC champions after putting up 55 points on the Washington Commanders, punching their ticket to Super Bowl 59 against what seems like destiny at this point, the Kansas City Chiefs, for the second time in 3 years. We'll recap that game, including some discussion of the good and the bad, as well as important Eagles news. Without wasting any more time, let's dive into a quick scoring recap of this massive win over Washington, starting in the first quarter. With just under 8 minutes to go into the quarter, after Washington started with the ball, they would go 18 plays this drive, but had to settle just for a field goal. Commanders up 3-0. After a great kick return from running back Will Shipley to set the Birds up at the 40-yard line, it only took Saquon Barkley and this Eagles offense one play and 18 seconds to put up the first touchdown of the game, as Saquon breaks 2 tackles and makes another miss, taking it 60 yards to the house. Eagles 7, Commanders 3. With just under 4 minutes to go, the Eagles are in the red zone. Hurts hands it off to Saquon Barkley, who runs up the right and into the corner of the end zone, his second rushing touchdown of the game already. It's still the first quarter. Eagles 14, Commanders 3. Moving into the second quarter, within just 18 seconds of the start of the quarter, the Commanders, coming off a drive from the first quarter, settle for another Zane Gonzalez field goal. Eagles 14, Commanders 6. After Jake Elliott misses a 54-yard field goal attempt, the Commanders get the ball back with good field position, and with just over 7 minutes to go, the Commanders on the 36-yard line, quarterback Jaden Daniels steps back, fires a laser to wide receiver Terry McLaurin, who makes Eagles linebacker Zach Bond miss a tackle and turns on the Jets, finding the end zone for a touchdown. They would try a 2-point conversion that is stopped by this Eagles defense, and it is now a 2-point game. Under 2 minutes to go in the Commanders' red zone at the 1-yard line. We all know what happens here at this point. It's a brotherly shove, tush push, whatever the hell you want to call it, into the end zone, and a penalty due to an A.J. Brown-Marshawn Lattimore scuffle allows the Eagles a better chance at getting a 2-point conversion, but it fails. Eagles 20, Commanders 12. Under a minute left after the Birds force and recover a fumble on the Commanders' kick return, the Eagles with the ball on a 3rd and goal. Hurts steps back, fires, and finds A.J. Brown in the front corner of the end zone for a touchdown. Eagles 27, Commanders 12. And the Commanders would end this half with a Zane Gonzalez field goal, going into the second half with a 27-15 lead for your Eagles. Moving into the third quarter with 9 minutes left, on a 1st and goal from the 9, Hurts goes in a design run and finds the end zone for his second rushing touchdown of the game. Eagles 34, Commanders 15. Around 5 minutes left in the quarter, on a 3rd and 1 from the 11, Commanders quarterback Jaden Daniels finds a hole and runs up for a rushing touchdown. This would be followed by a successful 2-point conversion with a pass to former Eagle wide receiver Olamide Zaccheaus. Eagles 34, Commanders 23. And shifting into this fourth quarter where the Birds just absolutely fucking dominated. Under 12 and a half minutes to go after a big Saquon Barkley run where he's yet again tackled at the 1-yard line, the Eagles scored the longest running tush push I've ever seen. Probably like 5 minutes it took to actually get this play going after the Commanders almost gave the Birds the score by committing so many penalties, which I'll be honest with y'all, I didn't even know that that was a rule. I think most people did not know that was a rule, that the refs could award a team basically a penalty try like in rugby. But anyway, Eagles are up 41-23 at this point. And with around 8 minutes left after turning the ball over on downs in the Commanders' territory, thanks to a Nolan Smith sack on 4th and 12, it's a second and goal. Hurts hands off to Barkley, who cuts right up again and finds the end zone, his third rushing touchdown of the game. Eagles 48, Commanders 23. Finally, with just over 3 minutes left, most of the starters have exited the game for the Birds after a 57-yard rush from Will Shipley. From a Kenny Pickett handoff, Shipley is able to finish the job, scoring his first NFL touchdown and essentially putting the nail in the coffin on this one as the Birds get the win with a final score 55-23 and are headed to the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts would go 20 for 28 for 246 yards, 1 touchdown in the air, as well as 16 rushing yards and 3 scores on the ground. Running back Saquon Barkley would finish with just 15 carries, but this was for 118 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground, as well as 1 reception for 4 yards. A.J. Brown would lead the wide receiver group with 6 catches for 96 yards and a touchdown. All right, y'all, let's shift over to some Eagles news, starting with, as we all know at this point, the Eagles will be facing the Kansas City Chiefs in a Super Bowl 57 rematch, this time down in the Bayou in New Orleans, Louisiana, on February 9th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. And with the halftime performance, we'll have rapper Kendrick Lamar for that awesome halftime show. Additionally, rumors have been floating around about the possible BG return for one final game after he tore his tricep earlier in the season. And there was this expectation that that game that he tore his tricep was his last one, because we all know how he was planning on retiring after this year, and then he had that injury which basically ended his season, and everyone has expected him to be out ever since. There has been no official confirmation and or statement about Brandon Graham being removed from IR, nor has there been an official confirmation statement regarding his return. But what do y'all think? If he's cleared, do you think he will play in the Super Bowl, or do we think his last career game will be viewed from the sideline? And finally, tragedy strikes in multiple scenarios as the Eagles celebrated their win over the Commanders on Broad Street in Philadelphia. First, there was some dumbass who decided to fire a gun into the air. Thankfully, as far as I know, we haven't heard any news of any injuries or deaths related to that. Dumbass decision. But anyway, moving on. Second, a woman was brought upon multiple charges, including aggravated assault and vehicular assault, as she injured at least 8 people after driving her car into a crowd of people celebrating in the middle of traffic. But probably the most heartbreaking of this celebratory weekend is that of an 18-year-old man named Tyler Sabathy, a Temple University student who died from his injuries after being on life support as a result of a fall from a light pole that occurred during the celebration. Fans have taken to social media to provide condolences, sympathy, and prayers to him and the family in this troubling time. And from us, I hope this family has a support system that they need, and I offer my sympathy and condolences to them as well, and may they soon find peace. Okay, we're going to shift into our discussions, opinions, and overreactions, but before I dive deep into this discussion, I want to talk to the Commanders fans real quick, especially my Commanders fan friends. Y'all should be absolutely proud of the season y'all had. Going from 4-13 last season to nearly making the Super Bowl for the first time since 1992 is nothing short of amazing. Jaden Daniels is a stud, and he's going to be a difficult man to play against over these next several years. Y'all got a good one in Daniels. Of course, as an Eagles fan, I'm happy for the outcome of that NFC Championship game, but I know it's heartbreaking from y'all's perspective. Regardless, y'all had a hell of a season, and we look forward to this ongoing rivalry in the future. Also, you just gotta give it up for Zach Ertz, man. As a former Eagle, even though he went to the Commanders, we still love him here in Philly. He's a hell of a player and had an incredible game and an incredible season with the Commanders. So thank you for taking care of him this year and showing the league that he still fucking got it. Okay, we're going to dive into this game now, starting with the offense. Things were just clicking for this offense. This was a game where we needed Kellen Moore to go fucking ham on a team, and boy did he do so. He exploited the flaws within the Commanders' run defense all game long, putting up 7 touchdowns on the ground. Yeah, that's 7 rushing touchdowns, not total touchdowns. Not only were the player performances on point, but this play calling was pretty excellent. This is what I was looking for when I've been saying that the play calling had to be diversified after a couple very close wins and a couple losses that we've had within this season. You had the obvious, you hand off to Saquon Barkley, that's an absolute given. You had other obvious plays like the brotherly shove, quarterback design runs, vertical routes, stuff I've talked about before. But then you also had these like pop-up handoffs to guys like Dallas Goedert and Devontae Smith. When you dial those guys up in the run game, that's some pretty smart play calling for you as an OC, because what defense is going to expect us to run a play with a handoff to Devontae Smith, aka the Slim Reaper? Not many, I can imagine. We knew the run game was going to be on fire in this game, but they were definitely exceeded my expectations. And this was all behind a mismatched offensive line and rotation. Also, shout out to Cam fucking Jurgens for stepping in and getting into the game in relief of Landon Dickerson. For those who may not know, Cam's been dealing with a back injury all week. He tried to go during pregame warmups, but he couldn't go in time for the game. He remained active, but wasn't expected to play. So, our guard, Landon Dickerson, slid over to center, and Tyler Steen took the guard position in his place. However, Landon Dickerson tried multiple times to push through a knee injury that he suffered during the game, but it was getting too much and he just couldn't do it. Totally understandable in that scenario. But Cam Jurgens stepped up and played the game without missing a beat. What an amazing moment for this offensive line. Along with our run game, we had another just because we don't doesn't mean we can't prove it moment out of Jalen Hurts in the passing game. 246 yards in the air, 1 passing touchdown, which again, one could argue those numbers aren't the highest, but he made excellent, easily catchable passes for his receivers. At this point, it's not even necessarily how many yards you throw, but it's how you throw the football. Are you making these passes catchable and easy for your receivers? Are you throwing to open receivers? You're throwing to the numbers across the shoulder. You know, those types of throws that while there may not be a high number of them, they are well-placed, well-thrown footballs. He also made great decisions on his throws. He kept the ball out of harm's way, and he only had 8 incompletions. Probably half of them were just intentionally throwing the ball away to avoid a sack, which also shows how on point our receivers were as well. A.J. Brown was 6 for 8 on targets. Dallas Goedert, 7 for 8 on targets. Devontae Smith, 4 for 4 on targets. Our receivers did a damn good job. This offense played with discipline, only 5 penalties compared to the Commanders' 9, yet half of those were probably, Frankie Louvu repeatedly diving over the players on the 1-yard line. They played complementary football. The ball was distributed out to a lot of players. A lot of different and smart play calling occurred. Egos were not impacting the game. Maybe one could argue the A.J. Brown scuffle a little bit, but he didn't get penalized, so it's all good. It was just a well-oiled machine that was able to put up 55 fucking points, the most in a conference game in NFL history since that merger in 1970. Don't worry. We'll get to the other historical stats towards the end of the show, but I want to shift things over to this defense. So, with this defense, there were really only 2 things that I didn't like from the defense in the game. The first was that initial opening drive. I'm not even all that mad at the missed tackle that turned into a Terry McLaurin touchdown later in the first half. He's a fast dude. The angle wasn't great. Shit happens. I totally get it. We were allowing a lot of 3rd and 4th down conversions that kept that opening drive alive. I do appreciate how the Eagles defense held them to only 3 points, but we can't have several of these long types of drives when we play against the Kansas City Chiefs. It's not sustainable in a game versus them. The Commanders went 4 for 6 on 4th down conversions. Now, granted, Washington was one of the best teams in the league in converting on 4th downs, and I'm really not sure if there's going to be that many going for it on 4th down types of scenarios in the Super Bowl, but you never know. So, we need to be prepared from the get-go, preventing those conversions for the entire game. The second problem I had was how quickly we allowed Washington to get down the field in under a minute at the end of the first half. Again, we only allowed 3 points, but that made a difference in the second time we played Washington in the regular season. So we cannot allow that for the Chiefs to be able to do this against us, because with their receiving game this time around, it'll be harder to hold that offense to just 3 points in these types of scenarios. But again, those were really my only concerns about the defense while I was watching / as I'm recording this, because the defense picked things up and put on another dominant performance. 4 total turnovers, 3 forced and recovered fumbles, and 1 interception by Quinyon Mitchell himself. This defense has been on fire when it comes to getting turnovers. I believe they have the most forced fumbles in the league this year with like 30 of them bitches, and I think they recovered the majority of them. But it's been nothing but lights out for this defense. Out of those 23 points, only 2 of them were touchdowns, and the remaining 9 points were field goals, which is definitely not bad considering your offense is putting up 8 touchdowns. You got your heavy hitters in Zach Bond, Oren Burks, Reed Blankenship, and Cooper DeJean, who are the top 4 leading in stats for the Eagles defense in that game. 3 of the motherfuckers joined together like the Avengers on one play with that De'Ami Brown forced fumble and recovery. Overall, this defense was damn near perfect, minus those 2 incidents I talked about, which I'm sure the team will work on over this next week and a half during film review and during practices. All right, so before I end the show this week, I want to talk about some records that were attained after this game / in the playoffs in general. So everyone's been talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, shocking, I know, about how they have the chance, I'll say that again, how they have the chance to three-peat and make NFL history. But let's talk about the history the Eagles have already made so far. With the team as a whole, we had the most points in a conference championship game in NFL history with 55, and the most rushing touchdowns in a playoff game in NFL history with 7. Then you have Jalen Hurts, who became the first quarterback in 33 years, and that last quarterback, Chip Kelly, to return to the Super Bowl after losing their Super Bowl debut. 19 or so quarterbacks between 33 years ago and now who made a Super Bowl debut never fucking returned. And recently that's guys like Joe Burrow. But Jalen did it this time. He broke that trend, superstition, whatever the hell you want to call it. But also, Jalen Hurts had the most quarterback playoff rushing touchdowns in NFL history this year with 9, and they were not all tush pushes. You can look at it. There was a 44-yarder, there was a 9-yard, I think there was like a 12-yard. Look it up. And for Jalen Hurts, he also is the first Eagles quarterback in franchise history to lead them to 2 Super Bowls. That's another positive thing, more of a team record, but still. Then, together with Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley, they became the first quarterback-running back tandem to each rush for 3 or more touchdowns in a single game in NFL history. That's not just playoffs, that's NFL history. Let that sink in for y'all. And there's plenty more as well that I could go over, but here's another thing. Saquon Barkley is only 30 rushing yards away from beating Terrell Davis's all-time regular and postseason single-season rushing record that he set back in the Super Bowl of 1998. And I think Barkley can absolutely get that done come this Super Bowl. The Eagles also prevented the Commanders from allowing Jaden Daniels to be the first rookie quarterback to make it to a Super Bowl. Now, they have the chance to mess up another sought-after record. And they can do that by beating the Kansas City Chiefs, thwarting their possibility of a three-peat. We were able to prevent it for the New England Patriots. Let's see if we can do it against the Kansas City Chiefs too. All right, that's it for this week's episode. Next week is when we'll dive into the preview for this epic Super Bowl rematch, including what we need to do to get the win and my personal predictions for that game. Again, the Super Bowl occurs on February 9th, while this weekend we'll see the Pro Bowl games, which start today and continue through Sunday, February 2nd. But thank you all for joining us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, or follow the show on YouTube, X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok by searching at Second and 15. That's 2ND AND15, or by the full name Second and 15, a Philadelphia Eagles fan podcast. You can also find the audio for each and every single episode releasing Thursday mornings on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Player FM, Pocket Casts, or wherever you get your podcasts. This episode, the Second and 15 podcast, and Old City Sports Network are sponsored by Righteous Felon Craft Jerky. Head on to righteousfelon.com and use our promo code OCSN, all lowercase, for 15% off the best jerky around. They got some awesome flavors: Darth Garlic, Soul Survivor, OG Hickory, Teriyaki Balboa, and more. Any orders over $50 will receive free shipping. We're also brought to you by Warlord Beard Oil. Head on over to warlordbeardoil.com and use code OLDSPORTS, all caps and one letter with E at the end of old, for 15% off your beard oils, washes, and many other products for all of your beard care needs. Orders over $75 will get you free shipping. We're also brought to you by SeatGeek. Download the app and use our promo code Old City Sports Network, all one word, for $20 off of your first purchase. We also got some local sponsors, including Robert Hangholt Construction. If you're in the greater Philadelphia region and you need some contracting work done, maybe you want to redo your siding, maybe you got some damaged windows, maybe you're looking to redesign your deck, call the #1 contractor in the area at 610-348-1066 to get a free estimate on your next home project today. And for all your Delco needs, check out Decals by Aaron. For all your Delco products and merchandise, check out decalsbyaaron.com, your #1 spot for everything Delco. And finally, we are brought to you by Iron and Steel Threads. Head to their website, ironsteelthreads.com, and use our promo code OldCity10 in all caps for 10% off the entire website, and a portion of the website's proceeds goes to youth hockey organizations. So you're helping out a great cause by shopping their merchandise. And also don't forget to head to oldcitysports.com and check out some of our merchandise across this show and all the other shows in that merchandise tab. Once again, thanks y'all for joining in. This is Second and 15, a Philadelphia Eagles fan podcast presented by Old City Sports Network. We'll see you all next week, where once again we'll be focusing on previewing this Super Bowl matchup. Have a safe and fun weekend. Don't forget to stay fly like an eagle, and as always, go Birds.